And my impression is that many people would feel that the experts simply refuse to learn. They refuse to listen. They refuse to learn. They refuse to take the views of the mainstream, the views that most people would say have stood the test of time, seriously. And I wonder just how corrosive all of this is in the end for the body politic.
Very much so. It's absolutely corrosive for body politic. Whether it's going to improve anytime soon, I think is an open question. I'm not optimistic, to be honest, John. And the reason I'm not optimistic is that we all like the idea of democracy and the people having a vote and the people really determining how things go. I was deeply dispirited to read Peter Turchin's recent effort. He's arguing essentially that America is on its way to a revolutionary condition based on other previous polities that have found themselves with those structural conditions, too many elites, but one of the most salient things that he points to is not enough of a mechanism. He has this grand sort of historical view of how polities can end up in disruptive and chaotic in internal situations, and his argument is that one of the factors that drives that is too many elites who are competing for the top spot, but also among elites an ability to funnel wealth and resources and opportunities upwards to themselves without any countervailing means from the masses, if you like, to stop them. And I think in that sense, when I look at Britain and I look really at the entire developed world, that's what I see in position. There simply is no obvious mechanism for the people to hold the elite feet to the fire and say, hang on a minute, you can't do this. I think there was a point, and by that I mean sort of real. I don't mean being able to vote. That's kind of the icing on the cake. What I mean is substantive. So what I mean is leverage. If you think about when women were granted the franchise, that was after the First World War in Britain. That was largely as a consequence of the fact that women's work was needed because so many men had been killed. So it was simply not tenable to say, well, we need you to fill some of these roles that men filled before, but we're also not going to let you vote. It just wasn't possible anymore. So women at that point had the leverage to demand the vote. But I think it doesn't matter how much lip service we want to pay to the idea of democracy if that doesn't come with a corresponding amount of leverage. It's just your vote just isn't going to mean very much. And I think about industrialization in particular in that context, and I think about the future as sketched by futurists like Yuval Noah Harari, where he imagines that automation in particular is just going to render a large sections of the body politic functionally just irrelevant. Under those circumstances, it's not obvious to me why somebody at the top of the political hierarchy would pay any attention at all to how the masses vote. I mean, who cares? They can vote for whatever they want, but if they can't actually do anything when it's ignored, if they don't actually have any means of if they can't withhold their labour through strikes, and there is no industry anymore because it's all been outsourced. And in fact, most of the wealth in the country comes through financial services, which is concentrated in one tiny area. Who cares what they think? I mean, it literally doesn't matter from a sort of realist point of view. It literally doesn't matter. And I think that's what briefly seemed not to be true after the Brexit vote. And that's what, if you look at what has happened, in what people have done rather than what they said since the Brexit vote, I think that's pretty demonstrably the case. It literally doesn't matter what the vast majority of the electorate thinks because they don't have any leverage. And until that changes, and I see no obvious way for it to change, then I don't know. I'm not optimistic that anything particularly is going to the disdain that actually is very palpable, I think, from at least some quarters in government, is going to modify with anything more listening, with more listening or more of a genuflection to popular desires. I don't see it changing.